Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Learn From Us podcast. As always, I'm always joined here with my man, Paul, with the Michigan shirt. That really hurts to see on you.
It hurts?
No, I'm not even like a crazy Buckeye fan.
Exactly, you're not. By the way, that's redundant.
We're crazy Buckeye fan.
Yeah.
You caught me off guard there.
Yeah. I'll explain to you what redundant means later.
Yeah, just write it down for me, and I'll just look it up here. I had a very nice text from a friend out of New York City. He said, "Hey, man, I really love your new podcast with your cocky friend."
Is that what he said? Did he really say that?
Yeah.
Cocky friend.
Phil, if you're listening, I love you. No, listen.
Phil, go fuck yourself.
No, stop. Listen. And then I thought about the idea of cocky and how it might come across.
Oh, it comes across completely pretentious and arrogant and everything.
Okay.
100%.
Most of your meaning to it. I would just say there's a different...
But it's not intended. Your cocky friend. If only he knew my height, he'd be like, "Oh my god, this guy is Napoleon Jr."
Little
over
small
here.
hands, a little cute little.
I actually have very large hands. I feel.
Oh yeah, okay.
I mean, they're pretty good.
Okay, I was gonna say yeah. I mean, to see you in your cute little white tennis outfit, frolicking around. No, I'm kidding, dude. I wear
prancing.
No, but there is a level of confidence that you've grown into. That,
yeah, I know.
But then.
Cocky little friend.
Cocky. He didn't say little.
I know. I throw that in my head because I'm sitting there thinking to myself like, that cocky little prick. Like about me, I'm like,
yes.
That's what I say.
No. I mean, but one thing you don't let slide, which I think vast majority of people is like, they don't let you don't let people sort of say things.
I know it's a
that
problem.
might not be true or hypocritical or.
It's a problem.
So
last night I texted Rahman and Darnell. I literally texted them last night and said these words. I literally said. I'll paraphrase. It'll take me forever. I said, from now on, when somebody says something I don't agree with, or I know to be factually incorrect, I'm just going to say, "Oh, that's good," and just move on from it. Because it makes me miserable. What's the point of calling everybody out on every single bullshit they say? It's like, just let them be. But at the same point, it's so hard. Like, I can't. I know it sounds funny. I literally refuse to be in a room with somebody because he once said that LeBron's first Nike contract was $90 million per year. And I said, "You're an idiot. It wasn't $90 million. Oh, it was a $90 million deal." He's like, "Yeah, that's per year." I'm like, okay. And I literally now when Lisa goes, "Oh, I love this lady," I'm like, "Her husband's an idiot." She's like, "Really?" Because of that, I'm like, "Yeah, he's an idiot." I'm like, it's factual. You can look it up on the internet and see exactly what it was.
Well, I do think you have a different level of memory when it comes to like what people say. We've talked about what people say and how to hold them to them.
But I also I remember the things that really matter to me, just like everybody.
Yeah.
And I also don't remember things that don't really matter to me. But I still look at it going, what's the man, I'll just ruin my day thinking about something. At least now, though, I realize it's on me. You know what I mean? Before I'd be like, that motherfucker, they're the reason. And now I'm just like, God, why am I so crazy? Like, why does it bother me so much?
Well, I called you and I said, look, we got a lot of feedback because I put out a post like, hey, we'd love to have some female guests on the show who are entrepreneurs, business people, investors. And I'm like, well, wait a minute now. Is Paul going to just call them right out on the show and be like, why the fuck are you doing that? The answer might be yes.
The answer might be yes. It's I don't know, Seth. You know, we had another conversation yesterday, me, you, and Crossroads Creative, right?
Yes.
And
which was lovely.
So I'm glad I'm glad we rated it at the end, and I'm glad you thought it was lovely because I thought maybe I got a little too.
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
In fact, I have a group of photographers I really love in this world. We call ourselves the Breakfast Club. We do a retreat every year together.
Yeah.
We go out, fly out to some random cabin in the middle of nowhere and sort of put our minds together. And I have so much to share with them because just some of the things that you've got. I mean, you told me about this website Harvest. That tracks time.
Did you guys look at it yesterday?
I'm already tracking, baby.
Oh, isn't that great?
And so it's like I literally like.
Are you already on it? God damn, that's awesome.
So I press start and I start editing my wedding photos. And then if I take a break or my kid needs something, press stop and then walk away. And sure enough, like the actual time it takes me to do something was far less. And like you said, it's a pain in the ass to even just stop the whole process and shut it down. So
exactly,
no one works like that. Like I once had a buddy. I do have a buddy, same guy who owns an album company in California, wedding album. And he has like a physical planner where he writes stuff.
Yeah.
And just like you told me many moons ago, he said, like, I write down at least 6 things a day. Like, if I can get 6 things done, that'd be great. So I got this planner, and then obviously the act of physically going into the planner and making stuff, that just dried up because I wouldn't commit to it. But anyway, you've got me just in the past year or so and just in the past couple months with my business, you just get me like going in the right direction, utilizing tools and
a direction, because what works for your buddy, like Mikey, has to write it down. Physically has to write it down. He'd prefer that. Me, I want it on my phone and reminding me and saying to me, Paul, you have some things to do here.
Yes.
As opposed to, but I also like writing I write things down when it's like, okay, I got 4 things to do here in the next hour. Just write them down.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to do there yesterday was, the reason I suggested Harvest was exactly because when you were explaining how long it took you to do something, I immediately thought to myself, and this wasn't a knock on you, this is a knock on everybody, including myself. It took me 2 hours to do that. Well, it took you 40 minutes, but it took you a span of 2 hours because this interruption happened.
Absolutely.
And that's life. You work at home a lot. Your kids are going to interrupt you, right?
Yeah.
That's understandable. But at the same point,
What was that?
I know. Everyone, I almost hiccuped and died.
Okay, keep going.
The whole idea of starting and stopping becomes so tedious that you just got to be, I need to do this. And I just finished that book. Go ahead.
Well, I have to cut you off because I've never met.
Oh, sorry.
I've never met someone who's helped me so much with my business so quickly. Because I'll tell you why.
It's awkward.
Within the past year, I now do business and I now keep organization with my colleagues and with my clients through 2 separate CRMs for my businesses. We use Slack. We use Asana to assign tasks. You've opened me up to Harvest. We use booking proposals, better proposals.
I didn't even know about Better Proposals. That was a really nice program.
We use this website called Frame to share our videos with clients and within each other to sort of review. And 2 years ago, I used nothing. I used my inbox and my Google Calendar, not even to write down reminders of what I had to do. My to-do list was in my head. And I still...
You had it in your head?
I still did pretty well. I mean, I had a flourishing photography career and still do. But I had it in my head.
Seth, you are a married man with 2 children. How could you possibly keep all the things in your head that you need to do and get them done?
Maybe I don't know.
That's impossible.
Well, I never had to work with anyone else.
Well, that's true.
I never had to work with anyone else.
That's true.
And I did not. I didn't. I had no one sort of holding me accountable, including myself. But somehow or another, yeah. I mean, life's getting much crazier now. So again, there's not too much going on when you have a 3-year-old versus a 9-year-old with events and open houses and sports and stuff. But yeah, no, it's not in my head anymore. It's not possible.
Can I ask a question?
Go on.
Hey, Timo. Timo and I have this fantasy football startup that we're working on. Timo is doing a great job. I'm not going to bore him with that thing. We have one call. What time is that call and what day is it?
Every Tuesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern.
PM Eastern. Every week, I have one phone call at 9:30 p.m. And that's this call, right?
Yeah.
And every single Tuesday at 9:15, I go, holy shit, we have a call in 15 minutes. I even forget that. Tim, do you know the call's coming or do you see the reminder?
Yeah, I know it's coming.
See, I always forget it. But that's the point. Like literally like last night, Lisa calls me at like 8:50. And she said something like, what are you doing the rest of the night? I'm like, nothing. I'll probably just play some guitar, play chess, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, I have a phone call at 9:30. And she's like, oh, okay, sounds good. Like literally, I forget that every single time. So that's why I sit there and say.
Well, that happened to me this morning, which is why we started late. I mean, like I made an assumption. Did I even read Tim's invite for this morning's podcast? No, I'll be there.
Isn't there a reminder? Like, oh, you probably got the reminder.
Yeah, that's when I was like, oh, fuck. Tim's like, when do you want to start? I was like, I don't know. I'm in a towel. But anywho, so
that's the thing. My whole thing is we have so much. Everybody talks about how much stuff they have going on. We need to write it down because we need to put it in some sort of system that makes it easier. Because that's why when we create a task manager in our office, we create a task management software. Because I remember thinking to myself, we have so many things going on. It's not possible for me to assign something to you and remember it 3 weeks later. I'll be like, oh shit, whatever happened with that? And then you'll forget. I mean, by the way, not you really, but whoever's in the office going, oh crap, yeah, I forgot to do that. It's just, it's okay to have these reminders and this help because we need it.
So, my wife and I would drive around for the past almost 10 years, maybe, even before that. And I would always drive past these really beautiful looking houses and mansions. Mm-hmm. And I always thought to myself, like, what do those people do? And what am I doing wrong? Like,
why is it something you have to be doing
wrong? Well, we've
wrong?
talked about this, but it's just like, I got straight A's through everything, even in college, while playing football. And I didn't excel at...
That's what you did wrong.
I didn't excel at everything. But I got a PhD. I followed the smart kids, got a PhD, and not like a PhD in like something history where you could only be a prof or something like, like practical application, like chemistry. And,
that's hard shit.
And nothing.
Can you please give the title of your dissertation to everybody?
Well, it was something like the synthesis and characterization of, oh my God, mercapto icosahedroborane clusters.
What was the?
That was a long time ago.
Did you scream eureka when you thought about that? You're like, I got it. This is gonna be
that was just a topic we were working on. But
I know.
But anyway, like you offered many years ago to sit down and have dinner with me, and it was then you started laying out the same premises we've been talking about for 80 podcasts.
Yeah.
B to Y organization. But my point is, I always said to myself and Beth, what do those people do that I didn't do? Because I always felt like I was doing the right thing, which we always do.
Uh-huh.
And then it never worked out with the way, it never worked out. And,
but you say it didn't work out, but Seth, you have a great life.
Well, I mean, yeah, it has worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, it has worked out, but I always wondered what people like you did to get where people like you are.
So I used to always tell my father, and this was kind of, when I was younger, I'd be like, it just seems that the more I read about millionaires versus billionaires, is the billionaires did it 1,000 times, the millionaires did it once. And that's oversimplification because I don't really believe that. But at the same token, once you have 10 apartments, why can't you go to 11? Then why can't you go to 12?
Yeah.
And then eventually down the line, it's why don't I get to 10,000? Some people don't want that. And that's perfectly fine. And there is stress involved with that. The difference between people who get more is they get more stuff done, right? And I really believe that.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of anything. It's just a matter of, do you get more stuff done? Do you go out there and talk to more investors? We talk about your phone calls for Crossroads Creative.
Yeah.
The more calls you make, the more likely you are to get a sale, right? Mm-hmm. And but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing it right or wrong. If you're happy and doing what you want to do, what does it matter? Like, there are people who are, it's funny. I remember having jealousy when I was younger about people who were doing much better than me. Now it doesn't exist. Now it's just like I don't think about people who have 20,000 square foot homes all around the world going, man, I wish I were them. I'm just like, no, I really, really, really enjoy what I do and have. And I don't mean that to be like, oh, look at that. He's so, I just mean it in the sense of there's no right or wrong way of doing it. It's what you want to do. The question is, are you willing to do what it takes? Because some of what it takes is like harvest. Clicking that button. The fact that and I'm not trying to be, the fact that you guys already downloaded it is very impressive to me. Like, I thought for sure we'd be talking about it next week going,
oh yeah, no, it's running, baby.
Stick with it because it's going to really, like what you just said there was very, that's a difference I see in Seth from 2 years ago than today. It would have been, well, this, that, and the other. And I still hear that sometimes, but now it's way less. It's like, oh, we already downloaded it. We already did it. It's like start, stop. And you already realized how much time you spend on other tasks. Not that that's wrong.
Well, let's circle back. The funny part about our relationship is you have never, along our opening line of cockiness, is you never let me, you were always quick to point out when you just wouldn't let me give too many excuses and started holding myself. Anybody.
Call Lisa. She hates it.
And so like holding myself more accountable and like going back to when I had none of these tools at all is like no one held me accountable. I didn't make many mistakes.
But can I make a comment?
Go on.
How far did you get with nobody holding you accountable?
I mean,
you got pretty far.
Yeah, I got pretty far.
That's the whole point. I look at it going, that shows me the potential that you have going forward. Not that I'm holding you accountable. It's that now maybe you realize there is more accountability that needs to be held.
Yeah.
Whether it's me or you, it doesn't. By the way, the fact that you downloaded Harvest, did I tell you to download Harvest?
No, you just mentioned the word.
I said,
once.
hey, have you guys ever thought about a time
Harvest.
manager, a time tracking? Oh, we didn't even know that. Harvest. I didn't say go download it.
Yeah.
I think I might have said take a look at it. That's it. And you guys went and did it. You held yourself accountable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't mean that to pat you on the back and give you hugs and tell you, oh, you're such a great person. I'm just sitting there saying that's a difference from Seth today versus 3 years ago when we went to Mexico for the first time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a major difference.
Yeah.
Then there's Tim over here. Tim wants to cry if we all of a sudden don't do something right. I'm like, Tim, you're doing a phenomenal job. I mean, my fantasy football game, Dynasty Owner.
Yes, dynastyowner.com.
It would be way worse if Tim wasn't involved. And I really do mean that because Tim sometimes is too hard on himself. Like sometimes you in the past weren't hard enough on yourself and now you're getting harder on yourself. Tim's too hard on himself. He needs to come over here a little bit and go oh my God, if we don't make $1 billion in Dynasty Owner, I'm a failure. I mean, true or false, Tim?
No, that's pretty true.
Yeah,
Pretty
see,
accurate.
and he really does believe that. He really does believe if it's on a monster success where it sells for $500 million, it's a fail.
Mm-hmm.
Is that realistic?
Well, you've said, that goes back to the idea of perfection and how you always tell me that the par is sometimes enough. And
Par is good enough to win.
yeah.
And and I look at you going, you've made this transition along the way of doing this and going okay, and I think it's awesome. And man, you downloaded Harvest already.
Well, it's funny.
I'm so stinking happy.
I'm meaning to share with my friends. I'd love to share with people I care about. Some of the techniques that you've.
Maybe they're not ready. Maybe they don't want to ever be that way. That's fine.
Be that way?
Yeah. This isn't for everybody, and not in a good way or bad way. It's kind of like, I have a good friend of mine, and he talks about happiness a lot. We talk about happiness a lot, right? And sometimes we talk about things, and he'll just say, yeah, that person's not ready yet. And they're right. And maybe I'm not ready for certain things. And I look about the things, I wasn't ready 10 years ago to say, my feelings are because of me, not because of somebody else.
Yeah.
10 years ago, it was all because of other people. That's why I felt the way I feel, right?
Yes.
Maybe 3 years ago, you weren't ready to sit there and go to Harvest because you're like, listen, I really want to make this succeed. Maybe you didn't want it bad enough. And now you're like, yeah, I want this pretty bad. All right, great. But you still have some changes to do along the way. We all do. I look at myself from 4 years ago and how much more intimately I was involved with everybody in the office.
Yeah.
And now it's totally different. Now it's listen, if we had a salesperson that had to leave the job. And so she came to say goodbye, and I'm like, you're leaving? She's like, you didn't know? I'm like, I had no clue. She's like, but you're the big boss. I'm like, I was very proud. Yeah. I'm like, I was very proud that I didn't know. You know what I mean? I was just like, oh, I'm like, well, good luck. And she's like, oh, thanks. She's like, long story, she had a personal matter to attend to. And she's like, if it gets settled, I'll be back in a month. And if it doesn't, then whatever. But either way, it's it's just being ready personally is a big part of it. Are you really ready to go do, there's a group chat that I'm in and they tease me, but they just said right now, I said something I was wrong. And somebody's like, oh, Paul admitted he was wrong. I'm like, well, yeah, I admit when I'm wrong when you idiots are actually right. I'm sitting there saying just because you guys believe something from internal doesn't make it right. Just I'm a very factual based guy. Why are you shaking your head?
Because we talked about in the car.
Right, exactly. Please go down that path. I've thought about that conversation a lot since then.
We need to have cameras in the cars.
Yeah, we do.
We get into a lot of. That'll happen one day. I think
course.
We'll get somebody to follow us around. I was watching. So I'm really, really falling in love with Joe Rogan now.
Yeah, you are.
I don't watch his comedy series on Netflix from years ago because I think he was on drugs. Kind of raged out, a little anti-female.
Was he?
Just in general, a little chauvinistic, I would call it, right?
But was it a comedy routine or was it really him? Or is there a difference?
He was overly vulgar, especially when these guys, they talk about sex and they're the big machismo and she doesn't matter and it's all about, he was going into something. Anyway, so he's definitely mellowed out a bit. He's 49.
The weed.
He loves cannabis. He's 49. He's been doing his podcast for 10 years. But obviously, as a scientist, I love listening to scientists and what they have to say. I'm in love with Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I know you were saying, which I read before, he got a little handsy a few years ago. But I don't know if anything came of it because I haven't heard anything.
Yeah.
It is funny when some of these guys get a little handsy. They just lay in the weeds for a few years, and next thing you know, they're back. Mel Gibson, everyone freaking loves him now. But anyway, where am I going? But anyway, we're talking about, boy, I digressed bad. That was bad. Sorry, Paul.
We all do. I like that we do that, by the way.
We're talking about, and he was explaining the idea of truth.
Yeah.
And I've had conversations with friends that you can't even have conversations because they're like, well, what's truth? What's a fact? And then you hear scientists say it's not even a debate. We know this. And so he was saying the different. So Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying that there is, what did I call it?
Objective truth.
Objective truth. Objective truth is whether you believe it or not, it's true. It's scientifically proven, quote unquote. If you don't believe in science, then I don't know what to tell you. I mean, the
conversation stops right there.
I guess so.
Right?
Yes. And we had talked about the existence of, you and I have had deep discussions, and I said, man, I'm really happy where human beings are because not only have we proven the science on our planet, but you get asteroids from 50 billion light years away, and when they land on Earth, the science holds true for those as well.
Yes.
So I'm a big fan of the idea that scientists, they have figured out a vast majority of how molecules and atoms are aligned and how they work. But so what was the word? What kind of
objective truth?
Objective truth. Yeah, whether you believe it or not. And then the second is personal truth. And you asked me, what the hell is that? And I said, well, personal truth is Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and you're not going to talk me out of it. It's true to me. It might not be true to the rest of the world. And so, yeah, so I think we're in a rising age of personal truths that make it very hard to even have conversations with folks.
You think it's a rising age? See, I think it's decreasing over time.
Oh, decreasing?
Yeah, I think that as science becomes more
advanced,
and things get debunked, we have more.
Well, I guess the problem is personal truth is currently overriding some objectable truth, where debunking doesn't matter. Flat earthers are growing.
Are they really?
Is
this a fact?
Absolutely.
The flat earthers are growing.
Flat earthers are growing. And the funny part is I heard one of those interesting arguments against flat earth just this morning.
Okay.
So let's not get into Jesus, God.
Do it. You have to.
So flat earthers, the most recent model that they like is that the North Pole's in the middle, and then all the lands are smushed outward, and then all of the circular rim, if you look on YouTube, all of the circular rim is Antarctica.
Okay.
But this guy said, well, to debunk this is have you and 5 of your friends stand on the equator all around the world. Call it Colombia, Morocco, China, Egypt, and all of you walk due south, you'll meet at the South Pole.
Yeah.
Or at the North Pole if you walk north.
Yeah.
And obviously in a flat earth that can't happen. It could happen one direction going north-ish or to the center, but not both directions. And so to hear a scientist say there's not even so that's where a personal truth or what people can get fired up about or get in an online community about is currently outweighing.
How do we have day and night if we're flat earthers? If the earth is flat?
What's
their argument?
I said that too. The sun comes up. How does it not hit everyone? And their argument is, I don't actually know. Because the sun, they have the sun going around around.
But still, how does that make that?
I don't know. It doesn't. It doesn't. And that's why it's just completely ridiculous we're having this conversation. And that's what the scientists say.
Well, I don't think it's ridiculous.
Go on.
I like the idea that we're having these conversations because, I always say this. When I went to college, I went to the University of Michigan, as we know, one of the most liberal institutions in the world. I went to college pretty moderate. Mm-hmm. I went to college and heard how ridiculous the left was, and I became libertarian right-winger going, oh my God, the left is so ridiculous. As I read more and more and hear more about the left, it makes me more right-wing. So it's the same thing here. It's like we can sometimes use that whole ridiculousness to sit there and think about the whole sitting, a lot of people sitting on the equator. Imagine explaining that to a child now. Hey, we all sit on the equator in these different parts and we walk south. Now a child can in their head go, oh, and when I say child, 12, 13, 14, somebody who's able to comprehend the idea of walking south. and taking a ball and saying, look, if we all sit around this ball and walk south, where would we meet? They'd be like, oh, we don't meet south. Exactly, guys. And we can use that to kind of educate people better. When you pull your mouth away from the microphone, I still hear you very well. That's weird.
Well, you got to talk. I think.
Well, you're like, anyways.
Go on.
I look at that going, that's a way for us to get better at what we're talking about, to validate things. I mean, there are things that you've said that made me, like the whole personal truth thing, that blew my mind. You have no idea how much I've thought about that in the last 3 or 4 days. I was like, damn, he's right.
Have you had conversations with people who hold the personal truths? Because like I said, like I have dear friends. Yeah, I have dear friends.
But I look at it going, hey, but you saying the personal truth thing actually made me feel more accepting of those comments. Going, it is their personal truth. What does it matter? There's nobody. You have, my personal truth is I love my family, right?
Yeah.
Who's going to ever convince me otherwise?
Even if they do something wrong.
Well, to a certain level, I'm quite sure that if I found out one of my family members was trying to kill me, I don't know if I would. It would hurt for a while, and that would be part of the love thing, but I think it would dissipate. Who knows? But I look at these things thinking these are positives that we can take from it of, okay, let's go verify, or let's go look into let's get better arguments for ourselves. And maybe along the way we go, oh, because I used to be so Republican, and now I'm libertarian because I started going so Republican that I was like, I remember the first time, I don't know if I ever told you this story, but it was a friend of mine on Facebook. I worked for a campaign. I worked for a guy who was running for state senate in Michigan. And he used to say, if a pro-choice person endorses you, it automatically makes you pro-choice. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how ridiculous is that statement? If they endorse you, it makes you pro-choice. Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out that years before, the person he was running against in the Republican primary, who he said was a pro-choicer, had endorsed him. And I saw it in this leaflet, and I went to my buddy who was the campaign manager, and I go, dude, what is this? He goes, shh, don't say anything. And I was like, oh my God, I was livid. And by the way, this pro-family guy, he was caught years later trying to get prostitutes on Woodward Avenue in Detroit. But the whole point back then was, here was a guy who was spitting from the rooftops, if a pro-choice person endorses you, you are a pro-choicer automatically. He literally would say that. I found this leaflet, and literally my buddy was like, don't show that to anybody. Like, get rid of that. And I was like, wow. And that's part of the whole, like, okay, well, as I became more right-wing and I started hanging out with people that I thought were, like, I started to realize other things going, wait, there's a hypocrisy here. Like, maybe, but I still believe these things. What's another avenue? And I started becoming libertarian. So that's why I sit there and say the flat earthers, they might say something that makes us understand science better and come up with better arguments for science as part of, I'm sorry, you weren't making that connection. Sorry.
No, I wasn't, but that's a great way. I mean, I think, as a scientist, the flat earthers and the global warming people, in my mind, that's why I said I think it's dangerous when the personal truths that some people wholeheartedly derive from Facebook can outweigh objectable truths that don't matter. And so, I've had these very conversations of just, it's just like.
But apart from science, what is there that's objectable truth?
That's interesting.
I mean, by the way, even global warming, I still go back to, first off, I believe global warming is happening for sure. The question is it as extreme? My belief in the way people operate is it really as extreme as people are making it out to be? Because usually when a whole society says something to a certain...
Sure.
I would go, it's probably not... I mean, literally, I've heard people say, in the next 10 years, there's a point of no return after 10 years from now. I'm like, really? So we're in the 10-year period that it is point of no return now. You know what I mean? It's like when I look at, all these celebrities who are, and then they fly their private jets places and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, okay. Like there's things I sit there and say, but I used to be the person who said, well, the earth has always been getting warm and cold. It goes through fluctuations. That's what I missed the point of. Yes, it has been, but it's been a lot faster because of... A
lot faster, yeah.
That's the issue we're having. I used to believe that whole global warming, guys, we've always gone... history shows we go, Ice Age. The point is, the Ice Age took, millions of years.
Yes.
And this has happened in 14 days. It's like, okay.
100 years. Yeah, 100 years.
100
everything
years.
was perfectly normal. And yes, so it may be... I tell people that... I always tell people, if you think it's natural that just in the United States alone, we burn 21 million barrels of oil per day, that's not natural. I don't think God or the earth was ready for us See? To drill into the earth, take all the middle of the earth out, and then burn it off into the atmosphere.
But then my response is,
Go on.
Why does it matter?
Well, why does it matter? Yeah, I guess, we're very thinking long picture.
By the way, I love, it's funny. I love your Tesla because I look at it and going, hey, if there's a more economical way for me to drive around.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that I think a lot of I remember once being pitched somebody for solar panels. He said, as a rich person, it is your duty to do this, even if it's a bad return. And I go, whoa, you're missing the point. You're missing the point.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of financial benefits for being more. I love nature.
Yeah.
But I always ask people say oh, we're killing. I mean,
well, we're finding that there's a lot of financial benefits to having a warmer earth as well.
By the way, I'm sure there are. I'm not one of those believers.
To people like us, maybe not like people in the Sudan and Bangladesh who are, might be struggling a little bit more than we are to find a home that's going to be displaced here in the next 50 years or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess if you're into real estate, I've heard in the next 50 years, 1 billion people are not going to be physically able to live in their homes.
So can I make a comment?
Go on.
I'm hoping the next 50 years that sparks some business to be started that is able to sit there and say, how do we change this? Where we go, okay, let's figure this out.
And that one, Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying, the idea that fixing problems sparks.
Yes.
NASA needs a power tool in space, so they made a battery-operated power tool, so they didn't have to have a cord, and now all of us own one.
Is that what it started all
Absolutely. Same thing for Velcro. I mean, so many things, dude. NASA.
See, we solve problems. Problems cause us to advance.
Yes.
Recessions cause business to advance, economies to. It's the same thing. It's people look at a negative and say it's always negative. It's not always negative.
Well, I guess the other side of that is recessions and problems cause the underlings to not do very well as well, all the way down to not live.
Well, I understand that, and I'm not trying to sit there and make them a number or make anybody a number.
Sure.
But I'm sitting there saying, we talk about America being America, and you have to sit there and go, at what point do we sit there and look at the whole country and saying we've advanced the country, have people die? Hey, how much better is medicine now because of AIDS? But how many people died because of AIDS?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I'm not saying you took it, but it's one of those things where it's hey, sure. Unfortunately, bad things cause good things to happen.
Absolutely.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
The guy who had the Tesla and was watching a movie in his car and then plowed through a truck and died probably wouldn't have died had he not had a Tesla. But it doesn't mean we stop Teslas and electric cars and self-driving cars because of that. Because self-driving cars will probably save a lot more lives than it will lose. And unfortunately, that's the way you have to look at it sometimes.
Yeah. Well, wow.
Andrew's waiting in the dark.
Waiting in the wings. Well, I got another topic for you after for our next podcast. It's even more mind-boggling. So
make sure you wear that shirt.
I will wear this shirt next time.
I'll wear this one too.
Great. Well, this had nothing to do with investing, folks.
If you guys, but I'm sure everybody likes a little change of pace sometimes.
I guess the idea of personal growth is also
that's what
something
we're trying
that
to
I'm. I had an idea. In closing, there's a guy in Ohio. I'm not going to mention who, but he's offering. I want to keep this very ambiguous, but he's offering a program that's incredibly vague, but of course makes you
want it more.
I'm sorry. It's like a real estate program that makes you. He offers seminars and workshops, and it's incredibly vague about how to do any of this. But you can just start doing deals and upon deals and deals, and I'm like, boy, I'd love to do an undercover, not undercover, but I'd love to go to one as a dummy like me.
We're going to one. Tomorrow we're going to one.
Wait, say that again, Tim?
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to one.
Where at?
In Cuyahoga Falls.
Yeah, the Sheraton.
What is it called?
Dean Graziosi.
Oh, you're going?
Is that the one you're talking about?
No.
I was going to say, he's not in Ohio. He's based out of
Arizona. But my point is I wanted to go as me and what I know and then bring back to you what people are saying because I'm sure you'd have a lot to say.
Yeah, we had some people go to a Grant Cardone event and they come back saying, "Oh, I learned so much." Well, what'd you learn? oh, there's just so much to learn. It's like, but what did you learn? Like it's everybody wants to justify that. And that's why we're going to the Dean Graziosi thing is we want to sit there. Didn't you go to the Robert Kiyosaki one too, Tim?
Yeah. Mary and I did, yeah.
And you said that was just a bunch of vague garbage?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, we're going to go to this Dean one and we'll see what happens. And I'm sure I'll be vomiting in my chair just going, what are these people buying into? It's like...
I'm sorry, Tim, say that again.
So why isn't Andrew coming with us? Why aren't you coming with us, Seth?
I don't know.
Do you want to come?
Andrew's
to
got
Seth?
better fit.
How much is it?
To fry.
I think it's free. Isn't it free, Tim?
Yes, it is.
Oh, so
Do we have a ticket already?
Yeah.
So the free ones are worse because I hear it's just like 45 minutes of pandering and then 15 minutes of the actual speaker coming out to sort of.
Will he be? You said he's going to be there too, right?
Oh, yeah. He's giving us lunch, too.
Oh, we're getting lunch?
Yeah, we're getting lunch.
Probably sack lunch.
I hope so. I like
We'll
sack
Taco
lunch.
Bell up.
Anyway, I'd love to show you. I don't like wasting a lot of time on these people, but this one guy, you gotta. Oh my God! Let me just.
Is this somebody that we know?
Let me just show you, just real quickly. I'm gonna show you his cover image. This is a live reaction, folks. This is a live reaction. Oh God. Oh shoot, I can't. Here. Here's his. Shit, I can't find it. All right, I'm stupid. Oh yeah, here. Here's his cover image. You ready, Paul?
Oh, jeez.
Don't describe it.
Oh,
but it's the worst of the worst of what these guys are trying to do, and it's funny is in all their teachings they don't say breaking. Anyway, we could get into this, man. But anyway, so we're getting more guests. We're gonna focus on more female guests. I'm always entranced when a woman can kill it. Just as you know what I mean. Like growing up, you get the idea of this. Mom is a mom and she does multiple things, and I love when moms can also kick ass in business. It's just cool to see.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start interviewing some of those as well.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
And if anybody here who's listening knows somebody who's grown a business from zero to, I don't care if it's even 300,000 a year in
Tell
revenue.
us the stipulations, Paul, because not the stipulations, just
the
what you wanted to see.
I want to make sure that they're open about their numbers, because I don't want somebody to just come in and go, I'm successful. Well, what makes you successful? I don't want them to tell me, oh, I did 30 million. I don't need to see 30 million in revenue. I want to see somebody who built something from nothing and built a service or product business where even if it's profiting them 50,000 a year for, I don't care. I want to hear what you went through, because I think, to me, I'm far more impressed with somebody who makes 100,000 a year in profit off of business than somebody who goes the corporate route and makes $500,000 a year. Way more impressive to make 100 grand a year as your own business.
Interesting.
And I've always believed that.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Seth. This is Paul.
Bye.
Love you.